Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Give folks a minute or two to settle in, and then we will get started. Maybe another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll start with some logistics and get rolling and get things underway. All right. Welcome, everyone. Depending on which coast you're on, morning, afternoon. Hope you had a good holiday if you had the 3-day holiday weekend off. So quick introductions for those that I have some folks in the room that I don't recognize their name, but my name's Marcus. I'm one of the founders of Harmonize. Normally I'd be joined by Alex, who is our instructional designer, but she's on vacation, so I'm going to be running solo for this webinar today, and then maybe she'll be the one that follows up with some as a write-up of sort of a summary of what we go over today. But a couple of notes on logistics before we get rolling. I am recording this, so we will get the recording back up, hosted on the website, probably also in the help center as well. And then questions, you can ask them in the chat. You can raise your hand, whatever you'd like to do in terms of getting your question in. Super important. I don't really have a formal, this is the content I need to get to. I have things to talk about, but your questions are super important. So make sure you get those questions in the chat if you have any when we go through this. Today's webinar, it's, I think, 30 minutes. We'll probably finish up right around 30 minutes. I have some time extra to stay if people need it to ask questions. We can finish up taking questions on anything Harmonize related as well. Today's topic is going to be a slightly different use of Harmonize than we often see people use. So Harmonize by default is a discussion platform, right? Peer communication, students interacting with other students. We also have a mode of Harmonize that a lot of people don't use or don't know you about, and we are going to make it more prominent as we go. But it's this idea of using it for private assignments. So basically a one-on-one conversation between you and your students. So you can see all of your students' work, of course, but they cannot see each other's. And then we're going to combine that today with some of our AI coaching facilities, so you can see what that looks like, as well as we'll talk through some sort of natural strategies that Harmonize lends itself to in order to help just fight some of the AI responses to assignments as well. So we'll kind of walk through all of those today. I'll be walking through playing at the inside of the LMS. I'll show you what student view looks like for things, show you how to set one of these up, and give a feel for what it looks like. So for those that just came in, I saw a couple other people filtered in. Feel free to get your questions in the chat, and we will be recording and sending out a recording of this as we get going. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and start sharing my screen. And I've taken us outside of any of the LMSs because as I see there's a couple different LMSs represented based on email address anyway, of what people are using. So I've opened this up in a new window to be able to see it outside of the LMS. So the thing we're talking about today, the thing we want to dig into a little bit is, we do rich communications for group discussions. Why can't we do the same thing for our private assignments? And can we use all of the AI tools that we've been releasing to help you get your private assignments up more quickly, get a rubric generated for them, let the students get coaching on those types of things? And then what does that look like from the student view? So I've created an assignment. I'm going to start with a pre-existing assignment. I'm going to start with showing you the student view of what a private assignment looks like inside of Harmonize. So you'll notice very similar to the public discussions. There's not a whole lot of UI change because we don't want your students to learn new things. We don't want you to have to learn new things. But I've set up an assignment that's basically poetry analysis. I've included a YouTube video to lead the students in. I've built an activity using our AI, which I'll show you how to do to make it be not a group activity and more of a private assignment. And I've built a rubric to be able to tell my students what I want from them as a private assignment. I also did this with our AI tools. And then you can see there's nothing going on here. This is not actually true. Like if I were logged in as the instructor, I would see other students' work, but I just want to highlight that students always only see their own work when they're coming into things. So I want to be able to demo for you kind of what the AI feedback mechanism that we just launched and how that can help you with some of your assignments. So in this case, I built an assignment. We have the rubric. I can show them the full rubric here so they can see exactly what I'm after. I'll show you how to build one of these after we get into it, but it just finds exactly what excellent is, exactly what poor missing is for each of the individual rubric criteria. So very, very, very specific rubric to this assignment, which allows us to give real-time feedback to the student. So I'm going to walk through what the student process is. They come in, they're getting ready to answer the post, they answer the assignment, they click a create a new post. This is the same editor they see in Harmonize, right? The thing that I'm asking my students to do here is I'm asking them to respond to this assignment, but I'm also asking them to do some sort of multimodal reflection or support that is not text-based to be able to contribute to this assignment. That was part of the instructions. So if I actually go ahead and respond to this assignment and start to type in what I'm doing there, and I come through and eventually I would record a video and do some reflection on this. But the thing I wanted to highlight for you that more and more people are adopting private assignments for inside of Harmonize is that our AI coach will allow the students to get real-time feedback on what they're writing here based on the instructor's rubric. You don't have to turn this on. It's entirely optional. But this is one of the reasons we're seeing more and more people adopt private assignments inside of Harmonize, because the student can ask for feedback where we are then going to scan their work using your rubric that you've built and using the assignment. So the student can have multiple attempts to get the assignment right. So you can see here, we show them the rubric as it's written. We show them where they could stand to make improvement. We show them what the rubric says. And we do all of this before they ever turn in the assignment. So from a student perspective, they can take a look at this and be like, oh, well, there's much room for improvement here, some room for improvement here. Really, I didn't do a great job on this assignment. I could come back up and revise it and go through different things. I have a revised element I'm going to grab here of a more thorough answer to this. So pretend I spent 15 minutes working on this and now I've fleshed it out quite a bit more. Then I can still come back through and scan my work again to be able to say like, well, how am I doing now? And then we will give this feedback to the student again, like, oh, are you doing better? Like, how'd it go? Are you getting better? Are you not? Each scan that they do takes about 10 seconds, and you can see I did a much more thorough job now. Because I've scanned more than once, it's telling me that I'm actually getting better on all of these as well. And then I can choose to continue to revise, or I can choose to edit as I see fit. And then now that maybe I've got what my final work is, I can actually do the second part of the assignment, which is to be able to do a little bit of peer reflection, not peer reflection, a little bit of self-reflection on how this assignment went. The reason this is important is that we need some way to make sure that the students are doing authentic work. You probably noticed, if you're familiar with ChatGPT, that I actually wrote these with ChatGPT. You can kind of tell from the formatting of how it does things. And also, I'm just not going to do a thorough analysis of Robert Frost's poetry for a demo. But we need to make sure students aren't doing that. So also coupled with that, the students can come in and say, okay, when I was working through this assignment, my initial draft was kind of weak in the following areas. I did an AI scan, and here's what it made me think. Here's what I went and researched. Here's how I analyzed what I was doing. And then I made it better. And so now I'm ready to turn in the final assignment. Here's what it meant to me, etc. So they have to talk through the learning process a little bit as well to be able to record something, to be able to tack on to the private assignment. And then when they're ready to go, they do the standard publish this to be able to turn it in for the instructor to see. So the workflow is very similar as if they were participating in a group discussion. And all of these tools are in fact available in the group discussion. But the slight spin on that we're doing on this is that there is zero peer connectivity expected. Students cannot see each other's work. And so you can set up private assignments that are just poetry analysis like this. You can set up weekly reflections where they are journaling on their learning, weekly, every other week, etc. So they're basically creating a blog view of things. And then you can be able to see that inside a SpeedGrader. I also have to add a subject to it as well. Roberts Frost's poetry, and then publish it as well. So, so the main highlight here is twofold: entirely private, AI coaching for the student, and multimodal, so that the student isn't just completing your work with ChatGPT. So I can publish it here and come in. So now I can see, I was logged in as a test student. Here's what I wrote, here's etc. I can add my own reflections. The instructor can add comments on this as well. You'll notice that the default is not your traditional card layout. I set this as the default. The traditional discussion card layout looks like this, but I set it to be what's called list view as well, which I'll show you how to do because I, as the student, just want to see my own work. I don't want to see a card of my work. I want to be able to see what it actually looks like. So if I were setting up multiple due dates and doing a learning activity every week, a reflection in a journal every week, and I wanted to make sure that the reflections follow a specific set path, I can create a rubric for what I want in my reflections, and then every milestone that they meet is another step in that journey. So that was a quick view of what the student looks like. So you see very similar to discussion, but anchored into the private discussion land. Before I show you how to set this up, do I have any questions on this? Because I'm guessing some of you haven't yet seen the AI coaching. I can come back to that AI coaching. Some of you probably haven't seen some of the tools to actually build these as well. But if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Otherwise, what I'm going to roll into next is how to get one of these. How does this look from a grading perspective inside a speed grader? And then I'm going to shift into how to set one of these up as a private assignment so you can see what that looks like. And then I'll let you go, take any questions you have to be able to go play with the different features here. All right, so let me show you from a teacher perspective. I'm going to leave my student view. I'm inside of Canvas for this one because I just had to pick an LMS for grading, but the same thing that I'm about to show you applies regardless of if you're in Canvas or not. The Canvas gradebook grading is called SpeedGrader. For those that are in other LMSs, you would just click on the grades and activity view. And I can see here that what Laverne was another student who did this work. I can see she's made a couple revisions to this. I can see what she submitted. And that she did do the video reflection that I was asking for, and I can add commentary here as well and grade it. The thing we want to be careful to show you as the instructor, though, is that this student actually used the AI tool to get better, and you need to know that as an instructor. So you can click on this and actually see the fact that this student scanned twice. On their first scan, there was some room for improvement, much room for improvement, and they did more work. And on their second scan, they made it a lot better and then published. And so you'll be able to see whether they were relying on this feedback mechanism to make their work better, which is important, for multiple reasons. You'll see that they're actually working with the assignment, they're actually growing on it. You can see here it started at 10:27, did it at 10:26. That's only an extra minute. Maybe that implies like, hey, how did you get that much better that quickly? Great to know how that happened. I did it with ChatGPT, which is why it was that quick. But you'll be able to see that timeline of what they've done. You'll also be able to see if they scanned like 6 times and they didn't actually make their work any better. You'll be able to see what we showed them and then maybe know that you need to step in to be able to help them out a little bit. So that is here under the AI feedback results where you'll be able to see it for any student who actually used it to be able to see how they did. Any questions on the grading view here? Some thoughts on how we're seeing people couple this from a grading perspective. We do see people are actually using our auto grade to be able to grade this, even though they are creating a rubric and coaching with it. So the case here would be, I want my students to do a reflection in a journal. I want it to have 300 words, and I want them to do that every other week. You can set up our multiple due date feature with a word count minimum with auto grading in this private assignment. So if they hit the word count participation deadlines and they do it on time, they earn the points. The coach will help them know, are they actually doing the right thing? And you always have the option to be able to grade with that rubric that we built to be able to come through and give them extra feedback if for some reason they aren't actually accomplishing all the quality that you're looking for from a reflection. So you can do all of the same things you would do with Harmonize, auto grading, grading with a rubric, all those types of things, just happens to be in a private mode. Any questions on this before I roll into how to set one of these up for you? I'm going to go start to finish. I'm going to show you this inside of Canvas. Once again, only the first couple steps differ. So this was my assignment for Robert Frost poetry analysis. So you set this up just like you would a standard Harmonize discussion. Here I can go ahead and go into it. Need to give it point totals, need to hook it up to Harmonize, need to give it a due date. So I'm going to go ahead and do those 3 things. I'm going to give it a points of 10, 19. Going to give it a points of 10. When you want to create one of these, people find this a little confusing. So we are going to make this a little more straightforward. But when you're actually hooking it up to Harmonize and picking Harmonize assignment, you are still picking the discussion, because a private assignment is in fact a discussion one-on-one between you and the student. Eventually you will see another thing pop up here that says private assignment in probably another 2 or 3 months, so that you can actually just pick private assignment from the top level. But right now you have to pick discussion, and then I'll show you how to make it go into private mode once we are inside of the discussion. So I can pick that here, close that out, and then I need a final due date for this here as well. Push this off into November sometime. Save that. So a couple notes on our AI tools to help me build this. We have AI tools to build the prompt. We have AI tools to build the rubric. You don't have to use them. I'm going to show you how to use them in private assignment mode, because there's a couple extra steps to be able to work with that. But I'm going to go ahead and build my assignment activity by saying I want an analysis of Robert Frost's poetry focused on tone, and I want a video reflection of the learning. Or if you have learning objectives, fantastic, put them in here as well. And if you know much about Bloom's taxonomy or complexity levels of where your students are at, you can change that. And then I generate the instructions. This is by default generating more of a group assignment. So I can look at it and be like, well, is this what I wanted to do? This one is breaking it into teams. I could run with this one and just be like, make this a private assignment without teams, no student-to-student interaction, and then I can send that through. It will rewrite that for me. So now I basically have written instructions for an entirely private assignment of what I'm looking for: an analysis of the tone and the poetry, how the tone influences the poem's meaning, my personal reflection to my emotions and how I felt about it, and some better descriptions of what I'm looking for here. You can go back and forth with this until you find something that's just what you want. You also can just write your assignment yourself as you go through. So I'm going to add this to my instructions. So now I've built a private assignment. In order to be able to use the AI coaching that I was showing you, you do need to use one of our rubrics, which we will build for you here. So once you have your assignment the way you want it, you go ahead and generate a rubric for it by clicking this button. We are going to show you what is essentially the left side of the rubric. We're going to generate that for you. It is so crucial that you make sure this is exactly what you're looking for, and that the expectations of what you think your students can achieve are clearly written here. Because if these expectations are too high, we're going to coach your students to continue to try to get better above and beyond what your expectations are for them. Or once again, if they're too low, then that's a problem as well. But we want you to be able to read these because we're building the left side of the rubric for you. If you disagree with any of them, you delete them with the little trash cans. If one was missing, you can add one of them. You can then, elaborate on these if you have a little bit of a different thing you want to see. And then when you click this next button, we are going to generate the full rubric so that now we have an exact description, as do your students, of what excellent means, what poor means for each of the individual rubric criteria. This is a mandatory step if you want to use the AI coaching I was showing you for these private assignments. Because without this description of what you deem to be excellent work, we are unable to be confident that we can coach the student in a way that you're comfortable with. So this 4x4 matrix also is editable with these little pencils. So if you go through and you read these and you're like, that's not exactly what I would have said for excellent, you can click on these little pencils and edit any of the different descriptions for this particular criteria. Get this the way you want it as well, and then save the rubric. At this point now, if I want that AI coaching, I just flip this little switch here that says, yes, allow my students to receive that AI coaching, and then I publish. At this point, we are putting the rubric back into Canvas for you. We're linking it up to SpeedGrader. We are publishing this out to the student, so it's ready to go for them to participate in. So it doesn't take long to set up one of these assignments if you're leveraging some of the AI tools that are there. And now it's ready to go for the students to start turning in work using that rubric coach that I was just showing you, that AI coach that leverages this here for you. That was a whirlwind walkthrough of what it looks like. I can come back through and show you some of the different ideas of like how to set up the milestones for journaling, etc. But this is the idea of private assignment plus a rubric plus AI coach, so the students can keep submitting until they get it right. And then what does that look like in SpeedGrader, and how do you build one? Do I have any questions from the crew that you'd like me to field? I'm gonna put those in the chat. You're welcome to. You're also welcome to raise your hand and come off mute if you'd like to be able to just ask the question in voice. I can promote you to voice speaking as well if you'd like. Going once, going twice. All right, while I'm waiting for questions, I'm going to show you the one additional thing that we see people do, which is how to actually, I should have shown you this, I totally forgot. How do you put it in private mode? Oops. So under post settings, this is very, very key. I should have shown you this initial part here. By default, everyone can see everyone's work unless you say private between student and instructors. You have to do this if it's a private assignment, because otherwise students will see each other's work. You can still use our Turnitin integration. You can still do all the other settings for this as well. Like if you wanted to do Turnitin checking and have it be private, and if I want it to be that list of mode by default, you can set all of these. The only one that is mandatory for private assignments is that you set the visibility down to private between you and the instructor, so that you only see their work, they only see their own work, and then they publish. The only other thing I think we see people do is they do set up multiple due dates for the private journaling if you're doing reflections. And when I'm then setting up those multiple due dates, you do it the same way you would do it for a harmonized discussion, which is I come into this multiple due date tab here, and I basically say, like, I'm going to do 4 journal entries throughout the month or throughout the semester. So I'm going to add 4 milestones for them to achieve. Add milestone 1, add a second one, add a third one, add a fourth one. And I'm going to say each one of these requires a post, a self-reflection post here, 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 and here. And then I'm going to say, okay, I should have set my due date out a little bit further, but I'm going to say, well, the first one is due right before the end of the due date. The next one is due a few days before that. Traditionally, these would be weeks apart, perhaps is a better way to think of this. So every week they're doing a reflection along those lines. I didn't set my due date out quite long enough to space 4 weeks worth of work, but you can see now I have 10 days before, 7 days before, 6 days before, 3 days before. Each of these is a journal entry required by the student to be able to make a post. I also can then say, and those reflections, those journal entries should have at least 300 words to count. And I'm really not grading you on correctness, I'm grading you on completeness. So I'm going to turn on the auto grading, and I'm basically going to say, I'm going to give you 3 points for each of those journal entries that come in on time and have 300 words in them as you go through. So 3, 3, 3, 3, it's a 12-point assignment. So now I've basically set this up as a full 300-word journaling assignment worth 12 points, and they will be auto-graded. They still receive the AI coaching. They still see the rubric. You can still use the rubric to take points away if you don't like their quality. But this is a way to be able to set up a journaling private assignment as well. And now you can see each of those deadlines here for what they're supposed to achieve, and then the activity for them to work on. The key points that I would say, even if you're not thinking private assignment, more and more turning to the multimodal side of things is the only way to actually effectively stop ChatGPT from doing all the students' work for them. So whether you're doing a small group discussion, a class-wide discussion, or a private assignment, asking your students to do some sort of video reflection or image additions or something that is not written as part of their assignment, you can still rely on the written part as the main way to assess it. That additional piece keeps them authentic, though, because even if they did use AI in some way to be able to represent what they were doing and build what they were doing, if they at least have to reflect on it in verbal ways, etc., that's good practice just from a recovery and a knowledge retrieval, but it's also a perfect way to sort of sidestep the whole ChatGPT thing. We will only coach on the textual part of it, so we can drive the text part to be complete. We don't know how to read a video. AI doesn't know how to read a video very well yet, so that part is then up to you to use and watch as you see fit. So if you're looking at their assignment and it like looks great, you don't have to watch the video. If it is something that you feel like you need to delve a little more into, you can watch the student's video. But they had to produce it regardless of whether you're going to watch it, to be able to make sure that they were actually doing their own work. All right. Well, we have 5 more minutes left. Feel free to put any questions in the chat. Otherwise, I will turn you loose to go play with this, and see what kind of results you get from it. So hang out for a few minutes, but let me throw out a support address if you run into any problems. Okay, make sure you have that. support@harmonizelearning.com. And then there's also a help site, help.harmonizelearning.com. Where you can find all the videos on how to do this type of stuff. And like I said, we'll be in touch with the recording of this once we get it up online, so you can come back and check on this if you want. However, it's pretty straightforward. It's more of a go play with it type of thing. Yeah, Julie, we'll send it out. The recording will come out in probably maybe a day or two, because Alex is out of the office, so I'll probably get David to send it out for us and process it. But it'll come out real soon. Then you can share it with whoever you'd like. All right, appreciate it, everyone. Thanks for taking the time, and let us know if you have any questions. Take care.